It's hard to see the future and tell people in the past about it. The past. To you, it's the present. And I come back with tales of what's to come, try to impart it onto people, and sometimes I just fail. That's on me. See, what we're on the precipice of, especially this year, 2026, is a year of such volatility, of such outlandishness, that we're going to look back on it saying, oh my God, get me off this year. It's got to end. You're going to wish for 2027. And I sort of feel like Marty McFly in Back to the Future. You guys know I love Back to the Future. Marty McFly in Back to the Future, who has the idea of bringing the almanac, all the sports winnings, all the people who are going to win all the different sports games for the next decade or more, and he brings it back. He wants to bring it back to his own time in order to become filthy rich. Well, because the movie hijinks happen, and the bad guy of the movie gets the almanac. And I come back and I see the time I'm living in, just in despair, where the people who are rich have gotten rich because they understand the future and they're using it in order to milk as much profit as possible for them while the rest of us suffer. And I come back and I go, I have to change things. I have to put things back to how they could be. That's where you guys come in. You guys are the time of the present, my past, who are able to change the future into something more glorious. But I'm doing everything I can to explain to you guys how important this is. And it's not coming through. I'll just be perfectly blunt and honest. It's not coming through. You guys are not actually taking the bets that you need to in order to become prosperous and perhaps wealthy. And so I'm going to do what I can over the next few months, because we only have about 8 months left before really the bottom falls out. And I'm going to do whatever I can in order to get you guys to safety, get you guys to profit, get you guys to riches and wealth. Because through your salvation, through your success, will be my own success. Well, this is Sunday Fuel, guys. Let's get to it.
The year is 2020. As the old financial empires collapsed and crypto drowned in noise and false prophets, one man lost everything. And in that loss, he was called. Through the wreckage of his own failure and the precision of his charts, a higher force revealed what others could not see and entrusted him with a mission to guide others through the chaos he barely survived. They call him Sacred Prophet. And now, the revelation is yours to claim.
Welcome, everyone, to Sunday Fuel at Sacred Prophet for Sunday, February 22nd, 2026. I'm your host, Tom Sacred Prophet Hartman, joined as ever by my first acolyte, Peter Bad Guru Hartman. Peter, you'll forgive me for my morose attitude today.
Yeah.
It's just that we've entered into the eye of the storm.
Your sound effects are.
I'm sorry. We're just entered into the eye of the storm.
It didn't play over here. It played at your place, not here. The eye of the storm.
Yeah. As you probably heard, well, you probably didn't hear about it because you don't. Not to insult you, Peter, but as far as a trader is concerned, you might as well be a 14-year-old trying to make sure his voice doesn't crack as he asks the girl to dance.
What do you mean? I'm here every week, all right, hearing what you have to say. And so if I have a deficiency, that's not on me, the student. It's on the teacher.
I'm here every week. If I have a deficiency, I can't even understand what you're saying, Peter. That's not ridiculous. No, I'm still licking my wounds a little bit from having a very clear idea of the perfect trade to take last week, and then I wasn't in it. So that initial monologue was really talking to me. Tom, you can see the future. take the trade. Remember that scene in Back to the Future where the old man is trying to give his younger self the almanac
Yeah.
in Back to the
That's right.
Future?
Yeah.
And the guy just goes, "Oh, okay, this is interesting, old man." And the guy throws it at the back of the seat. And the guy goes, "You gotta hold on to this. Don't you understand what this is worth? Okay, old man."
Yeah.
And that's how I felt with myself. I go, I can't believe it. I've literally had a perfect trade setup that could have raked in thousands and thousands of dollars. And I decided I'm going to be distracted. So I'm a little bit morose. But we are, luckily,
Mhm.
because last Friday was February OPEX.
That's right.
We're now in the small little period here of the air has been cleared, and two things can happen. Either markets can bounce, can rally pretty significantly, or they can start a plummet down towards new lows. Why? Why is this the case? This is because the options contracts, options inside the markets, just give you a little bit of a lesson here, Peters, because you need to understand this. Options are considered a derivative. They are a derivative of a stock or futures, except that there's so much money, notional money floating around in the option space that actually the option space affects the underlying, the actual indexes and the assets. So the options are an insurance policy towards bad things happening to your portfolio. So if that insurance is gone across many different people all at once, well, what happens is something significant happens during this period of time, either good news or bad news, right? Because you can be protected against upside or against downside. Well, what happens is that people have to quickly go and buy protection. And if people have to quickly go and buy protection, options, because some event happens, and options are priced according to the probability of an event happening, well, the price for those options will skyrocket dramatically. And if they skyrocket dramatically, that can move the market in a particular direction. If it's going to go up, it will go up a lot. If it's going to go down, it will go down a lot. So this is we're sort of like waiting here. We're going to see in the next coming week. Often at the beginning of the month is where you start seeing, hey, what the story is going to be. And the idea is that do we fall a little bit and then bounce up into March, or do we rise into March and then fall? Why am I talking about rising into March? Because what are the 4 periods of the year where you have the most intense options movements? Lack of options there, so that the option space, if people run for it, it can be. Let me say it a different way. There are 4 periods of the year where there's a window of weakness, where there's periods of the year where there's just the most people have the least protection towards the downside, upside, but also the downside. And those 4 periods of the year are March, June, September, and December. But because people are usually on vacation in June and in December, if something significant is going to happen, it usually happens in March or September. This September was that was where we topped on crypto.
Right.
All right. October is when we topped on crypto. So that already started, right? We've since then, I think, had 50% down, something like that, since then. Another 20, 30% were full on bear market. We might even be at the bottom, as we've been talking about. Bottom expecting that 55,000, 56,000. But March, beware the Ides of March. That's also a dangerous period, a massively dangerous period. And we often, if we're going to fall for the rest of the year or for at least some months after that, significantly, we often rise into it. It's one of those weird things, right? Where in order to have the crash, you need everyone on one side of the boat. Right. So if we take a look, let's say here at let's take a look at NASDAQ, and we switch to the daily chart. Let's go ahead and add, I think have an indicator for this, for events. All right, this is just a simple thing that's going to plot on the chart the OPEX dates. So we have here December, September, June, March, December, the 4 months we were talking about. This is not a perfect indicator, just to give you an idea here. But you see, like last time, we had the peak that happened in February, and then we were in further down in March. So what happened in this window of weakness? We did have a correction, and then it rose a little bit at the beginning of March, and then fell twice as much. Right? This is that drop where we dropped 20% on the stock market because of the whole tariff thing with Trump. Let's go back a little bit further here. We're not seeing all these dates because the indicator is not perfect. But let's go take a look at March over here. You see this March over here? This is 2022. We see how we had a drop in February. So we had a top in December, drop into February. We had a little bit of a bounce. It rose back up into March, and then on March OPEX, it gave up the ghost and it fell from the peak in March OPEX all the way down 27%. So I'm expecting things like this. I'm expecting some move like this, where we have a 20% down in the stock market. That's what I'm expecting come March. This is an indicator called Holy Sight. It is not yet published on the Sacred Profit Library. It will be soon, but essentially, it's very easy to look up when the OPEXs happen for the OPEX happens for the indexes, and they happen 4 times per year. So just think of those months: March, June, September, and December. And since the market has been up, I find it very unlikely that what we're going to see is a further up from here and then a fall. I think we've topped basically in December. We're falling a little bit now. We might get a little bit of a bounce. This is the eye of the storm, and then we fall in March. That's when I was expecting Bitcoin to even fall. A little silver lining there. We're in the fourth turning here, folks, where volatility events are happening again and again and again. Volatility events are unexpected events, or events that are not properly priced into markets. Now, while I do expect the S&P and the Nasdaq to fall 20%, I think ironically, Bitcoin might almost be done its drop. I think it's totally possible that Bitcoin joins in on the fall of the stock market, that 20% fall that I'm expecting over the next 8 months or so, starting soon, and that we fall to the 50, we fall down to the 50, 55, $56,000 level, even down to 50,000, that we fall down over here, and that Bitcoin actually catches a bid and then rises afterwards. Why? Why do I think this? Well, one, liquidations can't just happen in a vacuum, right? These price falls that we have in Bitcoin, someone has to be liquidated. Positions have to be liquidated. Right. And so if there aren't as many positions to be liquidated anymore, well, that's the end. That's where the end of it. That's what happened last time. Bitcoin fell from $69,000 to $17,000. And it was like, why didn't it fall any further? Because it couldn't. There wasn't anyone to be liquidated. There was no forced liquidations, forced sellers. So if we're almost done with that for Bitcoin, then Bitcoin will stop. Plus, you can imagine that if the stock market is going to drop 20%, some big event happens, some catalyst or something wrong in the financial system or what have you, I can't imagine time traveler President Donald Trump is not going to do whatever he can in order to reverse that. In fact, Besson is already out there trying to reverse this. They're trying to do all kinds of things in order to get the stock market back up. So I could see that the most ironic thing that could happen is that the anti-shift trade happens and Bitcoin soars to $150,000, exactly where everything else is falling. Just like how Bitcoin's fallen now, where everything else is going up.
All right. So I do understand what you're talking about in terms of the liquidations and that there won't be any forced sellers. But what's going to cause forced buyers?
So what happens, what often happens when you're at the low and all the forced sellers are done, is that you don't get forced buyers in. You first get, well, I think forced buyers can come because of the monetary fiscal policy, but let's not assume that at first. What happens then is that people go, hey, let me take a little bit of risk. Right? Let me take a little bit of risk. And then if Bitcoin performs at all, let's say it goes up 20%, 15, 20%, then people go, hey, that was worthwhile. Let me take a little bit more risk. You also have these call buying strategies. So in the Bitcoin space, we're getting more calls that are coming in, either through proxies on the ETF or directly on spot or perpetual futures.
Mhm.
So what happens is that those calls, when they go up in value, they go up in value because the price goes up. They can go up in value more than what Bitcoin moves. So if Bitcoin moves 15% up, the option contract might go up 150%. So what causes people to take risks is when they see other people started to make profit in a more riskier way, they go, okay, no, I want to go ahead and take that risk now. Plus, we've already had a protracted period now of, I mean, it's been half a year, right? Since October, where people are like done. The sentiment in the crypto space is, I think it's lower than it was even in the last cycle, because in the last cycle, at least we could see the things blowing up.
Mhm.
We saw Celsius, we saw 3AC Capital, we saw FTX, we saw all the things going on. Now we're not seeing what's going, like we're not seeing, it's not transparent, and we keep hearing whispers about this happened with Binance and this happened behind the scenes and this happened behind the scenes, but we can't see what's going on. Plus, we never got our football. We never got our hey, we got a big rally and at least some of us made money and all that. We didn't even get any of that. And so sentiment is super low. So where are going to be these? That's where I think it's going to be the end of those liquidations, and then people have had enough time to be like, okay, nothing's been happening. Let me go ahead and buy the dip here. I think it's highly likely.
Well,
Plus,
okay, so we buy the dip, and what stops us from just going back up to the most recent all-time high as opposed to blasting off beyond that?
so the question is,
Like,
when
let me ask you it this way. If everybody who was in now comes out and then goes back in, what makes it that them going back in pushes the price much further beyond all-time highs?
well, I don't think it's retail that's going to be pushing this price anymore. I think the time for retail was the last 3 cycles. Retail's done. I think now institutions are prepped, and they're going to want high performance. Plus, this is Bitcoin is not an asset like gold or silver or even shares.
Mhm.
It can be completely financialized. The whole thing is a financialized asset. And so the techniques that can come into play here in order to have this reflective loop where Bitcoin goes up and makes a bunch of these people, the elites, massively wealthy, there's not even any laws to stop it. There's not even any history of how to stop this thing from happening, right? And that's how these things occur. They come in, they do some major a major investment in a thing that has low, like there's no history to it, and all of a sudden it could run. We saw this in the last cycle. SPACs. Remember the special purpose acquisition companies? These SPACs that were IPOing on the stock market. Your boy Chamath Palihapitiya, had plenty of them, and these SPACs were just like launching. These SPACs were just making gangbusters money.
Mhm.
And people were like, "Oh, what are they? What's going on? What's the? Oh, let's just go ahead and do this. Let's just use the SPACs." Before that, in the global financial crisis, the collateralized debt obligations. Oh, how about we take loans that are shitty, but instead of calling them bad, we'll call them subprime. People go, "What's prime?" Don't worry about it. These are just subprime. So the prime, basically, they're subprime. So it's just an adjective on prime. They're basically prime. They're prime. Then they package them up, and then it turns out this liability now becomes an asset because these subprime loans are generating cash flow, and they have a risk profile. Let's stack them up, and now, let's build the whole thing off of it. So there's always these new things that happen with these new systems. And now they're going to be passing the Clarity Act, the Genius Bill, and this whole thing. They've cut out all the people inside of the regular crypto space. They don't want to give yield on stable coins. They don't want to validate a bunch of things. Like, they really want it to be under elite control. I go, great. I know what the elites do when they take control of something. Elysium protocol, all for us, all for the 10%, bad for the 90%. And then the last thing is, whenever they do a massive liquidity injection because something bad happens, no matter what it is, financial crisis, COVID, Brexit, whatever it is, whenever they actually, since 2009, so not .com, whenever they do it, the liquidity injection is always bigger than it was last time. Unreasonably bigger. Right?
All right.
And so I think we're going to get a liquidity injection that's going to be like unlike anything we've ever seen, and we would have a temporary rally up. But I think we could have a rally up from massive down. So net at the end of the year, the market might still be down. Like the stock market might be flat because of how much we fell. Can you imagine we fell 30, 40, 50%?
Wait,
So we
in
rally
the
back up?
market? Not Bitcoin.
Yeah, the market can do that, not Bitcoin.
But you call 20% for the NASDAQ down.
I'm saying within 8 months, I think we could totally have that, but we're going to have a bigger drop than that. That's what means my conservative estimate. What I'm finding ironic, what I think would be ironic, is that Bitcoin doesn't participate. Just like it didn't participate in the up, I think it doesn't participate that much in the down. And then we get a massive rally there.
All right. I'm wondering, what's the dollar doing? What's the dollar telling us?
That's what's interesting with the dollar. Whenever I look for these narratives, I go, where are the confluences? And when we take a look at the dollar right now, the dollar is doing this weird thing. Let me just hide this for a second so you can see it a little bit better. The dollar has bounced back up. Actually, the dollar is perfect to look at on 3-month trends. So let's do that. So the dollar is in neutral territory right now. So whenever we're in neutral territory, over here, it can go either way. It can go either way. I was expecting the dollar to be much further down, but it's not. But it's neutral territory. We've been bouncing around this range since spring of last year, again, when the tariff thing started, and it's just been straight flat. But we're headed up into this resistance trend right here. Now, Forex, when it comes to currencies, it can be a little bit squirrely. Like it doesn't necessarily respond decisively to these levels. But it usually means that when we're around these levels, just like we're around here at the top of the range, lower the range, and that sort of thing, something happens. Like something's going to happen, either good or bad. And so that adds to the whole eye of the storm situation over here. In the same way that when we take a look at gold had this massive rally up, and it hit like a wall up here at 56,000 and came tumbling down. So we'll see what happens whenever, and now it's in this neutral trend. So neutral trends to me say, hey, we don't know what's going to go on. We don't know what's going to happen. Watch for what's going to happen. We're going to take a look at price action. We're going to take a look at what our indicators say, and we'll plan accordingly. But what I don't think will happen is just flat. I think it'll either be a massive thing up or a massive thing down.
Is the party for silver over?
Painful. Here's the thing with silver. Silver is not like gold. Yes, it's a precious metal, and yes, it can be used. It is legal tender, or should be legal tender in the United States, and has been used as currencies for years. Silver moves on growth, on manufacturing. That's what the features are mainly used for. Even though there's a reserve at central banks for some amount of silver, gold is far more efficient to hold, right? For the same value of silver and gold, you can have gold that's like this big, and silver, you'd want a forklift to bring that. You a backpack. I don't know if you ever had $100,000 worth of silver versus $100,000 worth of gold. Held it. I've held $100,000 worth of gold, and it's heavy. You can't lift $100,000 worth of silver. So it's not one of those things that, okay, everyone's running to it as a flight to safety, which is what's happening with gold. Gold is being hoarded. Not hoarded, but like hoarded by China. Because of the geopolitical tensions, it's uncertain whether partnership will continue between China and United States. And so what are you going to do if you're China? Well, you better stock up on all the stuff you need. If you're an import nation, you better stock up on all the stuff you need. They're a production nation. They output, right? They got to get some of the commodities inbound. Same thing with their food that they have to provide. Most of their food and their rice, I think, comes from outside of the country.
Really?
So they have to prepare. But what if the growth doesn't happen? What if it turns out, okay, the biggest demand for silver, they decided, well, it's not working. We're preparing for this. We have bigger fish to fry. It's not working. Well, the silver can plummet down. And so silver is what we're seeing right now is that the silver went up to $122 per ounce for futures. It's now around 82. There's a little bit of upward pressure, but everything drifts up and to the right normally. So what I'm looking for, I'm basically looking for all-time highs. I got to see all-time highs. Why? Because the reason why we had this big, one of the reasons we had this big drop off is because I believe they increased margin requirements for futures like 3 times in like a month or something like that for silver. So
Well,
it just caused it to collapse.
you say
we
they do
weren't
that in order
seeing-
to control the
Yes.
price.
Correct. But that controls the price in futures. What we're seeing in the physical market is that it's very difficult to buy silver. Very difficult. And the prices haven't come down everywhere uniformly. In some places, they're still very high, or people just don't want to sell it. They don't want to sell it yet. You know what I mean? Because they're like, hey, it might go up or whatever. Or there's just not enough supply. So I'm looking for a confluence between the price for futures and the spot price. And spot price, we're not seeing a big move in that just yet. So we're gonna have to wait and see what's going on over there. But let's take a look at the Nasdaq for the week ahead and the Bitcoin for the week ahead because you know, I did see that move coming last week. Let's see if I can find another move coming next week.
Don't beat yourself up too badly. Look, you're doing a lot of things. You're a man of many chapeaux, like the French say.
It's hat
Many
in Spanish.
It's hat in French. So
Well,
you know,
Spanish.
don't beat yourself up. There will be other moves, and you started off this stream with a monologue, letting us know big things are about to happen. So get your big boy pants on, quit your whinging, and let's get on to it.
That's right.
Look at that green candle.
All right.
Were you in that?
For the Nasdaq, if you take a sorry?
Look at that green candle.
candle
Were you
here?
in that? Oh my God, you must have made a ton of money in that candle right there. It's so green and
Well,
big.
let's just bask in the idea here that guys, so many people last week who did not have our sacred profit indicators were sitting around going, I don't understand why the hell did it bounce here?
Yeah.
They don't know. And we look there and we've been calling that for a week that 24/7 is a location where we would take a perfect bounce. That's exactly what happened. Perfect bounce exactly from that area. And it's funny, if you take a look at other assets like Bitcoin off the 2-hour, let me show you Bitcoin here. Bitcoin also did a bounce where off the same level at the same location, 66645. Nothing ominous there, right? Bitcoin bounced off there. Oh, Tom, why is it that in two different places things bounce at exactly the same levels that you're talking about? Because it's not magic, folks. All right, we're surfacing what's actually happening on the underside of the markets. If we even take a look, I think if we even take a look at the this came close. At the euro, which is the other side of the dollar, we also had a big bounce over there. So this bounce on MNQ, it wasn't even the only one that we had seen that week, right? So we saw, let me just head over to the 15-minute, make it a little bit easier to see. All right. So we had a bounce off of over here at this area. That was perfect, right at 9:30, which we would expect. And but where do we, let's see here. A few days before that, we had a rise to this level over here, this 25.37. Remember this level over here? I don't have my marker here, so is it easier for you to see when I'm showing it with my mouse, Peter?
Yeah, I can see it.
Remember when we said over here the price hit the daily level and exactly where we'd expect and stopped, but because it hadn't hit over here, we know that the price has to come back there at some point. That's the expectation. At some point, it needs to come back up there, and that's exactly what it did. The price came down in order to clear this 2-hour level. This is these purple lines, this 2-hour VWAP level, and then after all those levels, there was no other levels below it left. So since there's no levels below it left, it goes back up. It went back up. It went all the way over there. I almost want to like step through one of these days. I'll do it. I'm going to step through the 2 hours, and you'll see that the 2 hour price has these 2 hour levels. That's where the price is climbing constantly. That's the stairs it's climbing. So once it came up over here and it cleared this 2440 level, it did a little bit more of an excursion over here. Why? Because there's a 25,100 level at the weekly level that it needed to clear. Once it was done, it said, okay, great. Now we're done. Let's go back down. We got to head down towards this level. So I was shorting most bounces through this whole area here, except this last one. And then now that it's done over here, there is a 2 hour level that's below here, 24.6. So that is dangerous. But there's a level above here, a 2 hour level at 25.3. So you're like, Tom, there's two levels, like basically on either side of the price. I know, eye of the storm, neutral. We don't know where we're going to go. What are we expecting at 6 o'clock today? What we're expecting at 6 o'clock today is that we do have a daily levels that are going to show up at 24,992, but let's call it 25,000, and at 24,962. Right, this is the closing level prices, VWAP prices from Friday. So that means there is a potential downside here of 85 points to 116 points that we can collect on the downside. Totally possible.
And then
right? So that would be the trade I would.
Go ahead.
Yeah, that would be the trade I would want to be looking at 6 p.m. tonight in about 20 minutes.
Say that again. Which trade?
The ideal trade sorry. It's not an ideal trade because we're in between two levels. But if I were to take a trade at 6 p.m., it'd be a short from where the NASDAQ closed now to 24,992 or 24,962. One of the ways I help try to decide, usually I would help decide, is I take a look because Bitcoin futures has the same sort of thing. Bitcoin is up here and the VWAP is over here, right? So one of the cheats that I have in order to figure out, hey, is the market likely to be open up or down, is I take a look at what happened with Bitcoin over the weekend. If I switch here to Bitcoin over the weekend, we could see here that the Bitcoin price on Friday also ended. Let's go to Friday over here. The Bitcoin price on Friday ended here. So that's at right here. So on the Bitcoin futures we just looked at, the price is over here, and then the idea is that this is where VWAP would be. But on the overnight, sorry, not overnight, over the weekend, Bitcoin did a whole excursion up and came back down to where that level would be. It's already right now clearing that VWAP level. So my expectation for Bitcoin futures will be that when the futures open up, it'll essentially be basically around this level already. And if that happens there, my expectation for NASDAQ is that it probably will also do the same thing. However, it's possible that if you're quick with a limit order or stop, you could just get in right away and just get that drop right away and just collect 50 points right away or 80 points right away. So that's sort of like a cheat of how I look. I go, how did Bitcoin operate all weekend? The reason I'm not like jumping for joy going, oh, that's definitely the trade I'm going to take, is that Bitcoin went up over the weekend and then down. So that might be mirrored again in futures for NASDAQ and S&P, but we'll see. It's nice to take a look at these charts, see what happens, and get a sense for what goes on. If this distance was way higher, if the NASDAQ was up here, let's say at 25.3, I would have no hesitation to short it down to this level. But because we're relatively close, I sort of go, I don't know. It can go either way. And that's what we saw with Bitcoin over the weekend. It went either way. It went up and it came back all the way down. Oh, by the way, I should mention, just in case you're like, oh, but Tom, you only talk about futures. Yeah, if we take a look at Bitcoin, yeah, Bitcoin went up this weekend. And so we don't, the VWAP level that we had for Bitcoin on Friday, where did the price come back down to this weekend? It came back down directly to those levels and cleared it. And that's where we're sitting right now. So when you look at it, something like that, this to me is the one of my favorite trades over the weekend for Saturday and Sunday is to short Bitcoin back down or long Bitcoin back up to VWAP level. because it often does this. You often have these shenanigans that happen on crypto futures for Bitcoin on Saturday and Sunday because it's not being affected by
Right.
the futures market, the equities market. So it's operating independently, but then by the end, it's got to go. Okay, I got to go back to normal. I had my fun. I had my party girl weekend. Now I got to go back to where I need to get to. And so every one of these pivot highs are great areas to short in order to come back down to this level.
Got it.
So these are all great areas. If you take a look at what happened on Sunday, this will be the last thing I say over here. Let's say you didn't know. Let's say you're not sure, Tom. I see the price going up. I'm not sure what I want to do. Well, it fell by the end of Saturday. Where did it fall to? It's been bouncing at 2-hour levels. Guys, look, it's bouncing through these purple 2-hour levels. And so when Sunday opened up, the price came up to VWAP level, the previous day's VWAP level, touched there 3 times, and then fell from there. What are these? These are shortable areas. It comes up underneath. When you come up to a level from underneath, you short it. When you come from a level from above, you long it. How do I know if it's going to work? You don't. The probability is that you do it that way. And if you do that more often than not, you'll succeed. So you short from over here, you short from over here, you short from over here. And then one of these shorts made it all the way down here. This was a move of 1%. At 50x leverage, you're making 50% on that move for that position. And this to me is just such an easy trade to take. Where do I have my stop loss? I have my stop loss either right above here in this middle area or above where the other VWAP level is, the session VWAP is above over here. And then I'll be fine. I'm okay with just risking that. What am I risking? I'm risking 40 basis points. Right? I'm risking 25% of the position. Whereas I could be making 50% on my position. To me, it's not that bad. For an easy Saturday, Sunday trade, not bad. You might be like, Tom, but why didn't you take the trade? Because I've been freaking short on crypto for a while now, okay? So I didn't get kicked out of my position. I'm perfectly happy to short from over here. Anyways. Yes, Bitcoin also can bounce up and then roll over. We're in the eye of the storm. That means we're probably going to be in some range. There's weakness, and we don't know what way things are going to go. So plan accordingly. Don't move your stops.
I want to remind everybody watching out there that this is not something you just have to watch. You can participate. If you're looking at these indicators and you want to know how you can get them, you can go to sacredprofit.com to get the indicators. If you take a look here at my screen real quick, I want to show you that you can go down here to pricing. Now, these indicators, let me show you my beautiful face so that you can see the sternness of my expression. These indicators, we believe, are so good, they essentially pay for themselves. So when you look at the price here on this page, which is a steal, $1,999 for the entire year, you get the full indicator arsenal, all strategy scripts, live portfolio tracking, permanent Telegram access. We have access to the great Sacred Profit. If you don't want to do that, you can also become a believer. And for $0, all you have to do is have an active account with our partner exchanges and trade actively. You put $500 in there, you trade that, and you have access to the indicators. But let's say you're not doing that. You have a 14-day trial here. At $0, you get full access to the indicators, all strategies and scripts, real-time signals, 14-day community trial. You use these indicators, you go out there, you win, you pay for the indicators as you go forward. This is what we believe.
Right.
We believe in the indicators so much that Tom decided, hey, I got to get these indicators in your hands. If I can get these in your hands, you can start using them, you can be profitable, and you will not be able to live without them. I mean, you might be able to live without them, but you shouldn't, okay? These indicators are like the Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. No blasphemy here. Get these indicators right now. If you are doubtful about it, I dare you to try it for 14 days. I dare you to try it. Sacredprofit.com. Go and get those indicators right now. You're going to love it.
He's not being paid to say that, folks. He actually believes it.
I'm being paid to say that, and I believe it.
All right, guys, we'll be back tomorrow for Revelations. We've been trying to do this. You guys seem to like it. We're going to be going over the trades of the day, the setups for the day, so that you can also see the setups for the next day. I think it's super useful to pay attention day by day, because it eventually gets in your head and you go, oh, wait, I know what Tom's going to say before he says it, which is what I want to get you to. I want to get you to the level where you don't even need me anymore. You also can see the future. And when people are looking around going, I can't understand. Why did the price bounce here? Why did it fall? You go, it was foretold. It was foretold. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you next Sunday on Sunday Fuel.
That was a fun one. And yes, we're still on stream.
Yeah, quick and easy. I've been working on the new versions for levels to surface even more hidden mysteries. I'm gonna get to the point where people are gonna be like, I don't even know I can reverse engineer the script. Like, I don't even know how to. They're not even gonna know what to ask for. It's gonna be great. Really happy about it. We're gonna have gamma information. I can't wait, Peter. We're gonna have gamma. People are gonna be like, Tom, stop talking about gamma. Just show me what it is. We're gonna be able to go to takeaprofit.com. Oh my God, I can see it right here.